Amanda from Pontes Books here with the Chapter 26 Historical Tidbit. Today's Historical Tidbit draws to a point in the story where Edward is writing a letter. And he decides to write it in 3 different languages, but that was not a historically accurate moment in time because obviously Tom and Edward did not actually switch places. So we're looking at that in general, but tying it to history, we're looking at what letters do we have from Edward VI. So there aren't many, but there are some. And so I picked just a few examples to focus on for today. So again, that moment from The Prince and the Pauper can be kind of captured here. But I have a plan that shall write us both. I will write a paper in 3 tongues, Latin, Greek, and English, and thou shalt haste away with it to London in the morning. Give it to none but my uncle, the Lord Hertford. When he shall see it, he will know and say I wrote it. Then he will send for me. So that's Edward speaking about how he's going to write this paper or this letter in 3 different languages, Latin, Greek, and English. So I know in previous episodes, we talked about the languages that Henry VIII could speak. I think we talked about a little bit about what Edward would have learned in school and what he and Tom had in common. So he could speak all of those languages well enough to write a letter. So that would probably be historically accurate. But again, he did not actually write a letter to Lord Hertford claiming who he actually was. So here is a visual. If you are watching the video, you can see the actual, I guess, screenshot, picture, whatever you want to call it, of the letter from Edward. So he actually signed his name at the top, and then the Duke of Somerset is, one of his kind of advisors co-signed it, is my understanding from looking at this. Hopefully, if there's anyone who's historically accurate, you look at it and it kind of looks like it's to Edward from Lord Somerset, but I think it is both of them signing it to someone else. So my understanding from the Earl of Somerset, I don't know what I said, it was to the Dean and Chapter of Exeter, is my understanding who this letter was actually going to. So this is a transcription of the text from that actual letter. So again, if you're watching the video, you'll see some interesting spellings in this letter because we just don't spell things the same anymore, even though it was written in English. So trusty and well-beloved, we greet you well, and whereas the right Reverend Father, in God our right, trusty and well-beloved, the Bishop of Exeter hath passed a certain grant under his seal unto our right trustee and well-beloved Commissioner, Sir William Paget, Knight of our order and Comptroller of our household, which we send unto you herewith, nothing doubting of your conformity, to do us gratuity and pleasure we desire and pray you to conform the said grant under your chapter seal, and send the same unto us by this bearer, whereby you shall do us pleasure, which we will consider accordingly. Given under our signet at our palace of Westminster, the 10th of February, the 2nd year of our reign. And then again, Somerset. So yeah, so that was a little hard to read because of the spelling. So if you're just listening, excuse my bad reading. That was a letter from Edward. So that's one example. That was in English, mostly. So then there's another letter that they have record of that is from Catherine Parr, which is one of the queens who comes after Jane Seymour, who was Edward's mother. So his birth mother was Jane Seymour. So Catherine Parr was a queen that came later. So this is a letter that was originally written in Latin and then was translated to English. So you'll find it makes a little more sense to us modern day because the person who translated it translated into kind of modern day English. So here's a letter. As I was so near to you and saw you or expected to see you every day, I wrote no letter to you, since letters are tokens of remembrance and kindness between those who are at a great distance. But being urged by your request, I would not abstain longer from writing. First, that I may do what is acceptable to you, and then to answer the letter you wrote to me when you were at St. James's, in which first you set before my eyes the great love you bear my father, the king, of most noble memory. Then your goodwill towards me, and lastly, your godliness and knowledge and learning in the scriptures. Proceed, therefore, in your virtuous course, continue to love my father, and to show the same great kindness to me, which I have ever perceived in you. So just a nice little note to, I guess you could kind of say, his stepmom a little bit, although I don't know that they necessarily felt that same way back then. So there aren't a ton of letters from Edward, but there are a few that we have examples of. And in this case, we saw an example of one that he wrote in English and Latin, although it was translated. And maybe there's some out there that are in Greek as well. But those are all the ones we're going to focus on for today. Hopefully you learned something. Have a good rest of your day.